Now, although I believe that we are moving into a golden age of thought, a golden age of action, a golden age of understanding and wisdom, I often think, and I was thinking yesterday and today, what got us here? What is the mindset of people that has moved through this iron age that has us getting ready for this golden age, as the Egyptians said, or the first Bantoon of the Mayans, the golden age of the I Ching, the age of Aquarius, for as the lunar great year. What are we? What got us? What is the mentality that we must overcome? What is one of the biggest mentalities that we must overcome in moving into this new era, this new time frame as we transition? And that is the recognition and inclusion and equality of the feminine energy. So what's up, everybody? How you doing? This is your Coach Renz, and I want to break this down a little bit, but give you guys something that we can start understanding and moving towards. And as we get towards the end of this video, you'll understand that the true answer to this question is for men who are alpha men to truly understand what that is, and for women who are alpha women to truly understand what that is as well. And all should know that there are certain qualities that each one of us can gain and exhibit that makes everything and makes this world better. So first, let's break down the base concept. And that's this energy. Energy is masculine and feminine, yes, but that does not mean that you only have masculine energy if you're a male, or you only have feminine energy if you're a female. You may have one or the other, or predisposed to one or the other based on your gender on this physical plane, on the matter plane, but you hold both. And it is that balance of both which will become key as we go through this. Is finding the balance. Now, we often like to categorize people as far as alpha male, beta, Charlie, delta. I use those myself when it comes to determining behavior factors, but on the matter plane, those things do exist, where in a grouping of society, a grouping of animal culture, we see this in lions and wolves, would be my primary usage of the animal world. We see this dynamic in place. So understanding this dynamic, we're going to historically look at how man who differentiates himself from the animal mind shows a higher level of consciousness, but that higher level of consciousness also allows for many of the destructive nature that we have on this planet. The group mind, as Carl Jung spoke of, the universal group mind of the planet being so negative right now, but moving into a positive, but being so negative because of this male-dominated, male-centric, patriarchal cultures that has spread all over the world. Now, before we go any further in that aspect, let me go ahead and let's go ahead and get rid of the notion that this patriarchal society all started because Europeans started colonizing the planet. Did it increase? Yes. Did it increase in ways that, in certain areas, in ways that it wasn't there previously? Sure it did. Does that mean that I'm going to make all Europeans the villain? No, I mean, that would be ludicrous to make such a broad statement, since we're all creatures. We're all spiritual beings made of energy. So, but certain circumstances cause certain cultures to exude a different type of characteristics than the majority of the world. And most of that is simply due to the type of economics, the type of government, the type of technology, the bounty of food, that environment that they were in. I mean, let's be real. Europeans began their colonization not out of this idea that they have to go out and conquer because they just saw other people. No, their population grew to the point where the land couldn't support. So necessity, being the mother of all inventions, pushed the European to leave the lesser vegetative states of Europe and go into Africa, go to the Americas, go to China and India. I mean, the Roman Empire lost a lot of its power because it spent luxury on buying pepper from India. Towards the tail end, it was buying so many luxury and then pepper from India to support the Roman idea, the Roman lifestyle, that it was one of the major collapse of the Roman Empire. Yes, there were wars and Vandals and the Visigoths and all these people eventually came in a warlike manner, but the financial stability of Rome began to really crumble when it was the spice road of buying pepper from India that started really eroding their economic. And once the economics of a country, a nation, an empire has eroded, the country itself won't be too far behind. So let's get rid of that idea, because this patriarchal idea started a long time ago, and I'm going to prove that to you of how this patriarchal mindset started well before colonization. And I took a lot of time actually, really focusing on that and how it got started. So we know in current day that we still have somewhat of a patriarchal mindset. But when we look at the last round of elections in America, we see a lot of women who won elections. A lot of women of color won elections. Women of different religious background won elections. We see women coming into more powerful positions. We see Michelle Obama being one of the most powerful women in the world right now. Most influential, which gives you power. So we see things like that occurring on a day-to-day. It was an amazing thing when I was growing up that Margaret Thatcher was the prime minister in England. That wasn't something that you knew of. One of the most successful people in Africa today is a woman, I believe, I don't remember her name, but she's in Nigeria. Somebody put that in the comments. You see these things happening. You see people coming up. So you see women, the feminine energy in the physical form that we see on the planet, in the matter plane, we see them coming up in the physical form. But what we have to recognize that before that they were being dominated, that in the 1950s in America, that if a woman complained that her husband was slapping her around, the courts and the police didn't do much about it, if anything about it, because that was just the norm. That in some states on their blue laws, which are laws that are still on the books but not enforced, and actually other laws will cause you to get in trouble for that. I believe in Virginia or West Virginia, you can still whip a woman. It's on the law that you can whip your wife with a 12-inch whip on Sundays. And I think you can give her up to 12 lashes. This is a blue law that's still on the books. It's either Virginia or West Virginia. I can't remember which one it is. But you have those kinds of laws that are still in place, not enforced and not even enforceable, where people can do it and get away with it because of other laws. But they're still there. But it tells you the mindset of people in the 1950s, 40s, and before in that state, that was a legitimate law. So we know of this current iteration of culture. We have seen how man has treated women over the last few hundred to 1,000 years. But let's look at some of the cultural stories that got us there. We can start with the Judeo-Christian teachings of how women were treated in your Old Testament and New Testament. They weren't treated much more than cattle. They were actually looked upon as property. They didn't have the ability to own land, and the value of a woman was based not on her character, not on her intelligence, but it was based on, can she produce a male heir? One story in particular that comes to mind is the story of Tamera and Judah. I believe it's Judah. I'm quite positive it's Judah. But Tamara and Julia, correct me if I'm wrong. Here it is, you have a woman who's married to a man. The man is disobedient to God, so God kills her husband. Now, in their culture, if a woman dies, if a husband dies and he doesn't, and she didn't produce any children for him, didn't produce a male heir, it is the next brother who is to marry this woman. You guys may remember this in the New Testament when they asked Yeshua, said, hey, there's this woman. She was married to all 7 sons. Who will she be married to in heaven? And he said, men, we aren't given to marriage in heaven. But it was that old teaching that the next son marries this woman because they have to produce an heir. Well, most of you know the story. The next son, I think it's Onan. He was like, nah, I don't want to share the inheritance. I want my kids to have the full inheritance. So he would never allow himself to leave his seed have an orgasm inside of her. So he would spill the seed on the ground, which was punishable by death. So God killed him too. Not worried about slavery, but let's kill him for ejaculating on the ground. So he kills him. And then, the father, Judah, he says, like, you know what, this woman's cursed. She got problems, something wrong, don't know. So, and I'm paraphrasing, of course. And he's like, I'm going to promise you not my next son, but the one that is just born or real young. And when he comes of age, bam, you can have him. So when he did come of age, he still, which is about 22 years, I believe, that's what most scholars say, is about a 22-year period. He still reluctantly gives his son, I think it's Shelah, Shema, something it started as, refuses to give him to her. So, long story short, her husband, his wife, Judah's wife, died. He's in mourning. So he's going to go off to this other city and sear some sheep, sell some sheep. Tamar, hearing of this, she goes to the city ahead of him, dresses herself up as a prostitute, covers her face with a veil, and induces him in a drunken state to pay for her services as a prostitute. He pays for the services, has the sex, leaves her 3 tokens so that she can claim the sheep when he brings it out. Because I think she promised him a goat, 1 goat. That's the way they did. That was money. So she promised him the 1 goat. He comes back out, bam, she ain't there. So he's like, oh, well, whatever. So along about 3 months later, Tamara's been brought out to the courthouse, the city square, and was like, look, this woman, she's been prostituting because she ain't got a husband and she pregnant. So not that she could have been having an affair, but she was prostituting is what the claim was. You got 2 claims you can make. Either one is punishable by death in their time frame. So he tells her, all right, hey, you woman, you right. That's right. You the widow of my son. You up here prostituting, and you and whoever this dude is, we're gonna kill them jokers because y'all wrong. We're gonna burn you. You're gonna burn on the stake. That was the punishment. We're gonna burn them on the stake. So she pulls out them 3 trinkets. She said, look here, bruh. You the one. You the father. Then old dude, realizing that he just accused himself and was going to punish himself, said, you know who? I was so wrong. You see how I mistreated her? I was supposed to give her my son, my other son. He was supposed to, orgasm his son. We just wrong. We not did this woman wrong. So you know what? She is justified in her trickery. And then she is given the inheritance. And she has 2 twins. And some Jewish scholars have shown the lineage of those 2 twins to come to the line of David. And because of the line of David, others they'll say that it goes up to the line of Jesus. So this woman who performed this trickery on this man is the one, is viewed upon by Jewish scholars and Christian alike as being showing assertiveness, as showing precognitive prophecy that her children would lead to the line of David and then lead to the line of Jesus. And this is the way this is viewed. Not viewing it as the woman was treated so poorly, that the woman was looked upon so poorly that she would have been in pretty much destitute lifestyle without having an heir, cast aside, treated however, simply because she didn't produce a son, with the dude who died because God killed him because he was disobedient, the next dude who died because he decided to ejaculate on the floor instead of inside of her, that she is looked upon so sorrowful. That a society that also have teachings that if a young maiden is raped inside the city and does not scream, that she is to be killed with the rapist. But if she screamed, then only the rapist is killed. That if a man is caught raping a young maiden, and the young maiden, which that's what the word virgin meant, young maiden who hadn't buried a son, and she wasn't betrothed to someone, and she gets pregnant, then, well, she's married, then she's not get pregnant, but she's raped, then she is to become the wife of her rapist and then produce children for him and be bound to him. In today's society, I am so relieved that we do not force the victim of rape to marry the rapist and then continue to procreate with the rapist. But this is how our notion and treatment of women can be. Now, for all my people who are going to say, like, see, I knew that Bible, I knew that Bible. And if the Bible is like that, then that means the Quran. If the Torah is like that, then the Quran and the Bible and all of them, all the Abrahamics, treat women badly. And we still see that today. We still see that today, where women are treated poorly based on these writings. But let's go back a little further. We go back a little further to the Sumerians. And one story that sticks out of my mind, and the reason why the story of Tamera sticks out of my mind, because they share similarities. In one version of the story of Ishtar, or Elnana, she's known as both. The one story of Ishtar Elnana, who's the goddess of sex, goddess of fertility, the goddess of war, the goddess of plenty and abundance. She's also the goddess in charge of the sacred prostitution, which is when the king has sex with the top priestess in the holiest of holies in order to invoke good tidings. So we have Elnana Ishtar. We're just gonna call her Ishtar for this video. We have her. According to the Sumerian text, one version of the Sumerian text, Elnana was supposed to marry Dumuzi. Now there's a whole lot to go in here. I'm just gonna skip through because I already went too far on the other story. But Elnana was supposed to marry Dumuzi. But Dumuzi is having some issues with Enki's people. Now, there is a thing where some say that Ishtar was the child of Enki. Some say she was the child of Enlil. Some say she was the child of An. But either way, keep that in mind. Dumuzi is running from Enki's clan. Dumuzi hides under a waterfall and drowns and dies in one version of the story. In another version of the story, Dumuzi dies because when Elnana Ishtar goes to hell, or to the underworld, it wasn't hell, just the underworld, she comes back, she sends Dumuzi as her replacement, and he's dragged down there by demons to live in the underworld for 6 months out the year, and then he can come back during the springtime. That's why we have spring. So Dumuzi comes back. Now for my Greek enthusiasts, then you know that that is the same story as Persephone, that she ate fruit while she was down there with Hades. Zeus said that, hey, if she ain't ate nothing, she can come back forever, but because she did, she only comes back during the spring, and that's what Gia or Hera, or whichever name you want to use for the Greek goddess of fertility, that's when that chick, Aphrodite, that's when she comes back, and she allows the greenery. So they explain spring that way. But in this story, Dumuzi goes down there and he dies. Point blank, he dies. And she's all like feeling bad about the fact that he died. Well, in one of the stories, Sumerian stories, the latter Sumerian stories, the gods were divvying up society. They were saying that they were too involved in man's dealings, that man was revolting against the gods, and they need to just step back, and they need to divvy up all the earth, because Marduk and Enlil had been doing all this war and fighting, and the humans were getting tired of it. So they was like, we're just gonna divvy up the planet. Thoth, you get this. Enki, you get that. Enlil, you over here. Marduk, you over there. You know, Ershkigal, you get that. And Nana was pissed, because she was like, well, I would get some too. Now that was the part that was intriguing. She was like, I would get some land. I would get some society. But I'm not, because Dumuzi got killed. If my husband Dumuzi hadn't been killed, then I would have got some property. So her father or grandfather, depending upon which lineage you want to go by, said, well, I know how to settle this. I'm going to settle this by having sex with you. When I have sex with you, you're going to get pregnant. You're going to have a son. You have that son, boom, you get property. You get a kingdom. You get society. You get this Mesopotamia, you get this India, you get whoever, you get all this area where they worship Ishtar, they worship Elnana. So that's what you're supposed to get. Now, mind you, her worship lasted until about the 8th, 9th century AD. So she lasted for a long time in her worship. But you're going to get that. So the story of Tamara is a little bit similar, like in order for you to get this inheritance, you got to have sex with the father or grandfather, whichever one it is, based on the lineage. And she had to pull some little like, hey, she had to go into the court and she had to plead her case like a lawyer. She was suing, like, I would have mine if not been for this situation, but this situation only came because these jokers tried to kill my dude. And he would have been my husband, and if he would have been my husband, then we would have got all our stuff. And then I wouldn't have went crazy either, because, I was sitting up here thinking that, immortality was in my JJ, in my yoni, and since immortality is in my yoni, and then it wasn't until Gilgamesh, was like a dude who was like didn't want to get down me, but he, went through all my trials and tribulations when I sent the bull down and to kill his boy Enkidu, So she was just like wilding out, having all these crazy things going on. But those stories are similar. She's at the goddess level, but she's still getting treated like that. Now, mind you, this is a Sumerian story. The Sumerians heavily influenced the Canaanites. The Canaanites, the Hebrew, the Israel, came out of the Canaanites, so they would have known these stories. They would have known that story from Inanna or Ishtar, whichever name you go by. They would have known that story. And that story proliferates. You get Esther. She's one night with the king. So she seduced the king for one night to save her people. Of course, she's looked upon as doing a great thing, but she's sacrificing her body, sacrificing being with this Persian dude in order to save her people. So we see that same story going again. We can even go back into some of the Orisha stories where we have the mother goddess who was treated unkindly by all the males, but then when they saw hell was raining on earth, Iron Age, hell was raining all on earth, what do? They go back to her. The top guy says, hey, look, this is the problem. Y'all forgot about her. But she was like, look, here's the deal. If I have a daughter, I told you guys this in the previous video, if you have a daughter, I'm going to let hell rain. But if I have a son, I'm going to get down with y'all and we're going to fix all this. So they do some little mischief. She has a son, Eshu. She says, all right, we good. Just don't forget my son. Just don't forget my son is your savior from the hell on earth. Eshu is the savior from hell on earth, so don't forget it. Otherwise, earth will be torn asunder. Ancient African story. Take with it what you will. So we have these different stories like that from time past. We have Egyptian stories, similar Egyptian stories where you gotta have that dude, that the woman has to have some guy that's like above her. But we had periods of time where there were priests and priestesses of equal level, where there was regent and co-regent, king and queen of equal level, of equal rule, of recognizing that they both shared and played a part in governing, in ruling, in understanding. And it wasn't an egocentric thing where the male dominated the female, but it was where the male recognized the female as his equal counterpart. We get caught up in, oh, he took a rib out of man's side, instead of looking at the original, the first, then the J text, it was just straight up created man and woman. That's why you have a first 6 days of creation and then chapter 2 in the garden creation, because the J text, man and woman, same time, no secondary mindset. This is why the lesbian community has attached themselves to Lilith, because Lilith was the first wife of Adam. This is why in the Canaanite story, El had a wife, her name just fell out my head. Asherah had a wife. Asherah, equal partner. This is the creation. In many creation stories, there is a man and woman creating together, equal partnership. When Kali recognizes that the ego of man is destroying the planet, she comes down and kills her husband, chops off their head, because she's killing the ego. That's in the Hindu tradition. It's in the Hindu tradition. So a true alpha male recognizes that he is truly a servant leader of his woman, and a true alpha female realizes she is a true servant leader of her man, that they both lead together by serving one another, that the masculine does not dominate the feminine. You see, for a man who is filled with masculine energy, in order for you to be that alpha male, that true alpha male, you have to understand that you have to nurture as well. As much as you protect, you nurture. When you look at a pride of lions, that pride of lions functioned in the harmony that we should function in. The male lion, the primary male, the alpha male lion, He does not run around. I'm going to use Lion King. He doesn't run around destroying and pushing his will. No. He makes sure, because we know in the animal kingdom, the female lions do the majority of the hunting, if not almost all the hunting. Even though the male lion eats first, he eats first because his job is to protect while they hunt, to protect and keep off as many jackals, keep the hyenas, keep the rogue lions who are Beta and Charlie lions who would come in and destroy, who act like Scar. His job is to keep them at bay and keep them in line for the ones he allowed to exist within the pride, because he allows some Betas and Charlies to exist within the pride. Not many Charlies, but he allowed them to exist within the pride while he protects the female lions and protects the pride. But the pride of women, that alpha female lioness, she leads the hunt. She coordinates the hunt. She ensures that the other lioness in category are fed properly. She makes sure things are running smoothly. She's doing more leadership, more running of the pride than the male lion is doing. But the male lion does not allow his ego to interfere with this. This is why in the movie Lion King, when Scar was running thing and he now let all the hyenas in, and then Sarabi is like, there ain't no food. You now let all the hyenas in. Now the herds have moved on, and I ate too many of the herds, and there's no food. You just sentence us to death because I'm trying, she's trying to run thing, and Scar, he can't handle that. His ego gets the best of him, and he knocks her down because he's a beta trying to be an alpha, but don't know how to be one. He doesn't know how to say, you know what, I need to nurture the youngings that's coming up. I still play with them. If you watch a lion in the zoo, he still plays with his cubs. He's not mean all the time. He still plays with them. But he does that. But see, Scar was like, nah, dog, I'm running things around here. But what did he do? He ran him into the ground. He ran him into the ground. That's what we have in our society. We got these males who are acting like they alphas. And yeah, the problem with society today is that it doesn't take much to have the skills to make a lot of money. It doesn't take much to have the skills to be able to accumulate influence and power. So we have males who are in influential positions, powerful positions, monetarily powerful positions, who are running things but don't have the ability to be a true alpha male. We have them from our presidential office down to the guy who's sweeping your streets, down to the janitor, to the engineer, to the tech guy, to the police officer, to everybody in between. We have people who've acquired the skill, got men who've acquired the skill, but don't have the innate know-how or the teaching of being a true alpha to understand that the ego must be set aside in order to allow the woman to flourish. But at the same note, we have women who want to dominate, who want to control, who are so caught up in girl power, women power, that they completely dismiss the male that says, I'm here to help you build. No, let's dismiss you. You're not good enough. I need to find that foolish one or that one that I can dominate. We have the ones that can't listen. They don't have an ear to listen for good advice. They don't have a heart that says that, what do I need to do to make sure that all these things are working fine for the community and not just for me, so that I can have a BMW Mercedes, so I can live in a big house, so I can do the traveling that I want to do, so I can put on the persona of the modern day woman, of the powerful queen bee woman. It is a true queen when she recognizes that she needs a co-regent king, and she respects that in the same way that it is a true king who recognizes that he needs a co-regent queen, and they respect that. As we move into this next age, as we are transitioning to the age of Aquarius, as this golden age dawns, I believe we'll start to see many of those things occur. We'll start to see better, what would be considered Tao-centric leadership start to emerge, that we will move into that stage. But for right now, it is the indigo child. It is the one who has that foresight, the person who is, even though time is an illusion, who is out of time, who is already there leading the way, trying to tell you, screaming out to you, but most people can't see it nor deal with it. Most will get into a relationship, partnership, conversation, arrangement with that true alpha male or that true alpha female, but not know how to benefit each other, not know how. And since we don't know how to benefit each other and not know how to benefit each other, they can't build together. They can't create. And if anything, one stifles the other, or they both find themselves in a position where they're always looping back, working towards building, but never being able to truly build because they're not matched up correctly. So if you are one of those out of time alpha males, alpha female, you find yourself always fighting against the one that's with you, the ones that are around you. Change your circle. Change the people that are around you. Because before you can truly live your destiny, you have to first remove these people. You don't have to be underhanded and conniving like Tamara, or if you listen to my video on Ruth, I think I'll put that up in here so you can click on it. You don't have to be like them. You don't have to be. You don't have to be conniving. You don't have to be like Boaz, who tricked another man out of his right to be with Ruth. We don't have to be like that. You don't have to be like Xerxes, who says that I'm going to give all these women one night with the king to see who's going to be my new wife. You don't have to do these things. You don't have to be Tamara. You don't have to be Inanna, Ishtar. You don't have to be Dumuzi. You don't have to be any of these people. Who you can be is your true self. Coming to an understanding of trueness of who you are. And then learning. If you're not an alpha male, learn how to protect. And it's about protecting. We got into this mode of protect and provide. But the true alpha male protects. Protects is his primary. Because together we provide for the community, for our home, for ourselves. And it is not measured by how much money one brings in over the other. It is not measured by any of those things. It is measured by the unity of the two. When we gain unity in a household of the two, then we can understand what it means that we become one. Bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. But even more so, mind of my mind, spirit of my spirit. So y'all have a great day. Remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. And please hit that subscribe button and continue to watch these videos that I posted up here. And I look forward to our next video, as well as our seminar series that is getting ready to start. Man, this is going to be a great seminar series. It's the Alchemy of Life tour. It's going to be great. Looking forward to it. Y'all have a great day. Free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable.